Hello everyone. Today we will follow a deeply emotional story. The journey of a single mother seeking her roots after discovering a truth she had never imagined in her life. Han, a single mother living with her young son, Tom, in a humble home nestled among vast fields. Her life was peaceful, with each day passing in the same rhythm. Waking up early, cooking, chopping vegetables for the chickens, and then hurrying to take care of Tom. But no one could have foreseen that one day that simple life would be turned upside down by a sentence that sounded gentle, yet struck the deepest chord of her heart. It was one afternoon, just as the sun dipped behind the bamboo grove at the edge of the village. The woman who had raised Han since she was little, the one she had always called Mother, looked at her quietly and said, "Han, you are not my biological daughter." Han was stunned. She thought she had misheard. In that moment, a storm of questions crashed through her mind like lightning. If this woman wasn't her real mother, then who were her birth parents? Where were they? Why did they abandon her? For all these years, she had lived under one roof with the belief that she had a family, poor but filled with love. Now everything suddenly felt fragile, like a passing breeze. The next day, before dawn had fully broken, Han woke up early as usual, but this time with a heavy heart. She still chopped vegetables for the chickens, still placed the basket down gently as always, but there was no longer peace in her eyes, only silent turmoil and confusion. That day, she decided to leave the village and head to the city, the only place she believed she might begin her journey to find her origins. Tom, Han's little son, was still fast asleep. Han sat alone in a corner of the house where the first light of day filtered through the thatched roof. She quietly prepared their belongings, gathering clothes, an old mat, and a small box of milk for Tom, all carefully packed into a worn basket, faded with time. Looking at Tom sleeping peacefully, Han hesitated. She was afraid the journey would exhaust him. The road to the city was long, crowded, and full of strangers. But if she left him behind, who would she entrust him to? She thought hard, weighing her options. And finally, with the instinct only a mother could know, Han decided to take Tom with her. Under the scorching May sun, Han carried her child along the dusty village road. The wind was too weak to dry the sweat-drenched back of the young mother. On her shoulder hung an old worn basket, carrying only a few sets of clothes, some snacks, and a few packets of milk. Tom clung to her neck, his head resting on her shoulder, cheeks flushed red from the heat. As they passed the edge of the village, Han glanced toward the small grocery shop owned by Miss Men. By chance, Mrs. Bin was also sitting there today. The moment the two women saw Han walking past, sweating, burdened, and weary, they immediately called out, "Han, where are you going in such a rush, dear?" Mrs. Bin's voice rang out, laced with surprise. Han hesitated and stepped into the shade of the shop's porch. Her face lowered slightly, her eyes avoiding theirs, perhaps from shyness, or maybe from the turmoil inside her heart. I'm going to the city to find my biological parents." Han spoke softly, just enough for both of them to hear. "What? Auntie Tom isn't your real mother?" Miss Men's eyes widened in disbelief, unable to hide her confusion. Han gently nodded, then began to recount the story that had weighed so heavily on her heart these past few days. She held nothing back. How Auntie Tam had confessed the truth, how she had an old photo of her father from his youth, and how she planned to go to the old address where her mother once lived, hoping to trace a clue. Hearing this, Mrs. Bin grew quiet, a distant sadness filling her eyes, as if remembering something long buried. Miss Men, still puzzled, asked, "But you're bringing Tom with you. What if the journey is too hard, the heat too harsh, and you don't even know anyone up there? Do you have anything more than the photo and an address?" Han simply shook her head, replying with a voice full of determination, but also deep sincerity. "I'm scared too, sister, but if I don't go, I'll regret it forever. I just want a chance to see them, to ask them why, and no matter what happens, I won't have any regrets." After hearing that, Mrs. Bin stood up and went inside the shop. She returned with a bag of snacks for Han and Tom. "I don't have much, but take this for the road, something to keep you going." She gently placed the bag in Han's hand, her eyes full of warmth. Miss Men didn't hold back either. She went to the fridge and brought out 2 small cartons of milk, slipping them into Han's basket. "These are for Tom. The boy's going to need time to adjust in the city." Han, flustered and red-faced, bowed her head in gratitude. "Thank you, Miss Men. Thank you so much, Mrs. Bin. I'll never forget this." Leaving the little roadside shop where she had just received heartfelt kindness from Miss Men and Mrs. Bin, Han continued her journey under the scorching midday sun. Her feet stepped onto the asphalt road radiating heat, each step feeling as though it were glued to the burning ground. And yet, strangely enough, there was a peaceful warmth inside her, a sense of quiet comfort brought on by the encouraging words, the small bag of snacks, and the cool cartons of milk given without hesitation by sincere villagers. The old basket on her shoulder, filled with a few belongings, some clothes, and all her hopes, felt heavier with every step. Tom had fallen asleep in her arms, sweat beating on his forehead. After walking a bit further, Han spotted a row of shady trees by the roadside and decided to rest. She wiped the sweat from Tom's brow and gently fed him small sips of milk. Suddenly, from a distance, the sound of a motorbike engine grew louder, and a familiar vehicle stopped near where the mother and child were resting. It was none other than Dan. "Han? Goodness, where are you going in this heat? And carrying Tom with you too?" Han was slightly surprised, but she smiled and nodded in greeting. Without hesitation, she answered plainly, "I'm heading to the bus station, planning to go to Vinh Long to find my biological parents." "Aunt Thea. She's not my real mother, Dan." Dan froze, his eyes filled with shock. He had always thought Han's life, while modest, was at least peaceful. But now here she was, bearing the weight of a journey to seek her roots, carrying her child, burdened and alone, in the blazing midday sun. He looked at the two of them for a moment, then decisively said, "Get on. I'll take you to the station. No way you can walk in this heat." Han hesitated. "It's okay, I don't want to trouble you. I can go on my own." Dan waved it off. "Nonsense. Get on, don't worry about it. If there's anything I can help with, just say the word." The old motorbike sped through the sun-baked roads. Han sat behind, holding Tom tightly, her hair blowing wild in the wind. When they arrived at the station, Dan quickly got off and hurried inside to ask the ticket agent, "Excuse me, is there still a bus going to Vinh Long today?" The woman behind the counter checked the schedule and shook her head gently. "The last bus left about 15 minutes ago. You'll have to wait until tomorrow." Don's face tightened briefly, but he turned to Han and said quickly, "No worries. If the last one's gone, we'll head out to the main road and catch a passing coach. It'll just take a bit longer, that's all." Before Han could even respond, Dan had started up the engine again. "Come on, let's go. If we don't hurry, we'll miss that one too." Han said nothing. She simply tightened her grip on Tom and rode with Dan toward the highway. By some stroke of luck, just as they reached the main road, a coach heading toward Vinh Long came into view, and Han managed to catch it. Han bowed her head in farewell, then lifted Tom and got on the bus. Inside, she sat by the window, cradling Tom in her arms. The bus slowly pulled away. She looked out, and Dan was still standing there, hand raised in a wave. His eyes followed the bus until it became nothing more than a faint dot at the end of the road. Inside the bus, Tom stirred slightly, his small lips murmuring as if dreaming of something. Han gently brushed his hair, her eyes fixed on the road ahead, where a strange, unfamiliar city awaited. Her heart filled with questions that had no answers. Were her biological parents still alive? Would they recognize her? She didn't know. But one thing she was certain of: she had to go. Not just for herself, but for Tom, so that one day when he asks, "Who is my grandma?" she could answer without hesitation. She held on to hope that this journey to find her roots would one day lead her to a place she could finally call home.
Hân cúi đầu chào danh, rồi bế vé Tôm lên xe. Trên xe, Hân ngồi bên cửa sổ, ôm Tôm vào lòng. Xe từ từ lăn bánh. Cô nhìn ra ngoài, nơi Danh vẫn còn đứng đó, đưa tay vẫy chào. Ánh mắt anh dõi theo chiếc xe cho đến khi chỉ còn một chấm mờ cuối con đường. Bên trong xe, Tôm cựa mình, đôi môi nhỏ mấp máy như mơ điều gì đó. Hân vuốt tóc con, mắt hướng về phía trước, nơi thành phố xa lạ đang chờ đón. Trong tim cô dâng lên hàng loạt câu hỏi. Liệu cha mẹ cô có còn sống? Liệu họ có nhận ra cô không? Cô không biết nữa, nhưng điều duy nhất cô chắc chắn là cô phải đi, không phải vì chính mình, mà vì Tôm, để sau này khi con hỏi ngoại con là ai, cô có thể trả lời không ngập ngừng. Hy vọng rằng hành trình tìm về cội nguồn rồi sẽ đưa cô đến một nơi gọi là nhà.